Call the November Colonial Board of Education meeting to order. Our flag salute this evening will be led by Robin Crossan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Crossan. First order of business we have is additions and or corrections to the board agenda. Have none. That being said, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Kennedy, second by Mr. Crossan to approve the agenda as presented. Any questions? Hearing none, do I hear a motion for? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Agenda is approved. Consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of administration file attachments, executive attachments, education, meeting minutes, personnel moves, and business needs. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Handy, second by Mr. Schiller to approve the consent agenda as presented. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Consent agenda is approved. Let's step back. Let me welcome Mr. Schiller to our board meeting. Mr. Schiller was sworn in prior to executive session, and we're glad to have him back in our ranks. He's a valuable member in the past and will continue to be so in the future. So Rick, welcome back.
Thank you.
Next order of business we have is education, which would be the waivers of provisions. Dr. Menzer.
Yes, if you recall, last board meeting in November, I asked you for a motion to move forward with submitting a class size waiver for grades K through 3. As following that approval, we did post the notice of this vote and this discussion 3 times in the News Journal on October 19th, 26th, and 29th. There was a deadline on Friday, October 30th, to receive any written public comment. We received no comments. You'll see in your board packet the report for the date of the class size waiver on the 29th of October. You can see what the class size average was for K3 for all our elementary schools. So we continue to seek the board's support in approving this waiver to allow us to continue to maintain the classroom environment that we've done for the last several years with the waiver.
That being said, do I hear a motion to waive the provisions of Title 14?
Make a motion, Mr. President, to waive the provisions of Title 14 of the Delaware Code. This says 1704 and 1705 for the 1705A for the 2020-2021 school year.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. McGee, second by Ms. Kennedy, to waive the provisions of Title 14 Delaware Code SS 1704 and 1705A for the 2020 and the 2021 school year. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Update and action items. Dr. Menzer.
Thank you, Mr. Laws. I have, there's 3 updates to action, and one of them will be an action item. I'm going to ask you to turn your attention to the monitor in front of the room, and Dawn Alexander, our Colonial School District Early Childhood Expansion Coordinator, is going to provide the school board with an update about Ecap at the state level, as well as the programming that Colonial does for students at Colwick related to the Ecap program. Dawn, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Menzer. And Phil, will you go ahead and let me share my screen?
You should have the ability now.
Great, thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Menzer. Thank you, board members. Thank you, everyone who's here this evening. Alrighty. Well, I'm grateful to have this opportunity to talk to all of you about the Early Childhood Assistance Program, also known as Ecap. We have Ecap in Colonial School District, and this is our 4th year. ECAPs are funded by the Delaware Department of Education, and they are statewide programs that support preschool children and their families. The state currently supports 845 children through ECAP funds. ECAPs were first authorized in 1995, and from 1995 until 2006, the only way for new programs to apply for ECAP was if another program defaulted. Then in 2016, the state reauthorized ECAP, requiring that programs reapply every 3 years. So all of the programs that had previously been ECAP recipients had to reapply. So in Colonial, we applied in 2016, and we received 40 slots. ECAP programs follow the National Head Start program performance standards. So for performance standards for Head Start, there are things such as ensuring that teachers are certified, ensuring that a certain amount of hours are available to children throughout the day or throughout the school year, a high level of professional development for staff, et cetera. And programs also must be a star level 4 or 5. And Delaware Stars is the quality rating improvement system for the state of Delaware for early learning programs. And at COWIC or SEEP, the Colonial Early Education Program, we are a star level 5, which is the highest level that a program can receive. ECAPs in Delaware are funded at $7,277 per student per year. And so we receive funding for 40 slots. We initially were funded for 40, and we continue to be funded for 40 slots. Each year we receive approximately $2,000 for training and technical assistance. So we apply those funds to be able to access professional development for staff. So ECAP in Colonial is at COWIC. We also call it SEEP, and that's at 12 Landers Lane. It's adjacent to John G. Leach School. So again, in 2016, we were awarded 40 slots, and for 3 years, we reapplied in 2019. We were again allotted 40 slots for 2020 through 2023. All of our students are at COWIC. Most of the children are 4 years old. Some of the children are 3, but most children are 4. And children who are on site are attending for a full day. We utilize a weighted criteria for ECAP, and we use that for not only for ECAP slots, but for all of our slots that we would call typical peer slots. So we ensure that children who need access to the programming the most are the ones who receive it. So we use Data Service Center for the applications. And if parents are not able, or family members are not able to apply online, we have paper applications in English and Spanish that families can use. And then we ask a handful of questions regarding eligibility for purchase of care, for TANF, which is Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or for SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. We ask families about homelessness and a variety of other questions to determine need. And then with that weighted criteria, children who are most in need are allotted those slots. And we always have more children eligible than slots available. So we do maintain a wait list for ECAP. The online applications for Ecap are on the preschool website, and we have just opened the applications for the 2021-2022 school year. For children who participate in Ecap, home visits are offered 2 times per year. Given our current COVID situation, the fall home visits were offered virtually. Typically, we offer them at children's homes, and we also do offer on-site home visits at the school if families are more comfortable doing them there. We offer evening and daytime family events throughout the year. So we have opportunities to partner with Christiana Care, with Parents as Teachers, with 211 Help Me Grow, and on and on. So we have events for families, and not just for Ecap families. All of those family events are available to every family at SEEP. Then we also offer screenings for all the children. It's only required for Ecap, but we offer these for all of the children enrolled at CAWIC. So dental screenings through a partnership with the Division of Public Health, vision and hearing screening offered through our school nurse, and then developmental screenings. And all of these screenings are considered to be best practice through the American Academy of Pediatrics, through the schedule of periodicity, so that the schedule of periodicity recommends the frequency with which children should participate in these kinds of screenings, and we follow those recommendations. We have partnerships with a variety of community partners: Autism Delaware, Parents as Teachers, 211 Help Me Grow. We have a dog therapy program. We work with Henrietta Johnson Medical Center. We have a Delaware readiness team, which is the Colonial readiness team that brings together early learning providers, child care providers, families, community partners. We work closely with Christiana Care, with communities and schools. We have high school students who are participating in CTE programs. They are completing their internships at CAWIC. We also partner with local universities, and we have relationships with local Head Starts, the local public libraries, again, public health, the YMCA, and local child care programs. So we really understand the importance of developing relationships with our community partners. In Colonial, because of our 40 slots, we receive approximately $287,600 per year, and primarily the funds are used to fund staff. And that allows us to have smaller class sizes and ensures that children have access to a lower child to staff ratio. With Ecap, there are 3 levels of oversight. There's a governing body, which for us in a school district is our school board. There's a leadership team in the school, and then the policy council. The governing board, again, is the school board. So the Colonial School Board makes the decisions for all the programs in all of our schools in Colonial, and Ecap is no different. So our school board oversees all that we do with Ecap at CAWIC. And then within the building, we have a leadership team, and our leadership team is Mrs. Daniels, our school principal, Mrs. Kojo, who is also our instructional coach, Mrs. Campbell-Molitor, who is our school counselor, and then me, the program coordinator. So the 4 of us form the leadership team for Ecap. And then we oversee the daily school programming, the instructional leadership team, and policy compliance for Ecap. And then lastly, we have a policy council, which is the part of the Colonial readiness team. So we bring together community stakeholders, families, and early learning staff to help us look at all the policies that we implement with Ecap to make sure that we are meeting community needs, and we're aware of changing community needs, and we consider those as we implement programming. We also receive feedback on our school success plan from the council. And that is all of the information that I have regarding Ecap in Colonial. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding programming at CAWIC, as well as questions related to the state Ecap program. And I guess I should put in one more thing here before questions, that Dr. Menzer is the lead for, with Reading Consortium. The Reading Consortium for Educational Equity has a handful of subcommittees, and Dr. Menzer is the co-lead for the Social Determinants of Health subcommittee. And within that subcommittee, I'm the lead for the Early Childhood Work Group. And we are really reviewing the Ecap program in Wilmington and Northern Newcastle County, as well as throughout Delaware, to make recommendations for the state so we can strengthen current Ecap programming and make recommendations for Ecap growth in the state. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Do we have any questions for Ms. Alexander?
I have
Go
one.
ahead, Ron.
After the 2023, is there a possibility to increase the number of students we can serve? Or do we have the capacity?
So that's certainly a question to discuss with leadership. We have, it would be regarding the space within buildings. So we do have, when we look at the number of children in Colonial who would be eligible, an easy way for us to determine eligibility, children who are SNAP and TANF eligible are eligible for Ecap programming. So approximately 32% of our children are TANF and SNAP eligible. So we do have the need within Colonial. The challenge would be having the space. So we certainly can apply for more slots for Colonial. And it's also that right now within the state, and that's part of the advocacy that Dr. Menzer and our Reading Consortium group, part of the advocacy that we're doing is right now there are only 845 slots available for the whole state. But if we look at the number, when we look at the population for the state, there are approximately 11,000 4-year-olds and about 11,000 3-year-olds in the state. And looking at the percentage of children who would be eligible for Ecap throughout the state, we would have about 2,700 children statewide who would be eligible. So we need to look at how we can recommend increases in Ecap for Colonial, but then for the city of Wilmington and the whole state. I hope that answered your question.
Anything else? Leo, anything? Rick?
No, good.
Lucy?
Yeah, when the children are done their 4th year, do they automatically go into the kindergarten system?
They do, and thank you for asking that. So children in Colonial who are 4 years old are automatically registered for kindergarten. So Mrs. Daniels, our principal, she speaks with the principals at the elementary schools to help with transition. And we communicate with all of our families regarding the opportunity to participate in the tours of schools, of elementary schools. Obviously, that's a challenge right now, but we're grateful that all of our schools offer school tours. So it gives our families who are 4-year-olds in Ecap and in all of our 4-year-old programs, we encourage families to take advantage of that opportunity to participate in the school tours at the elementary school where they will attend. And we encourage them to attend kindergarten night. Again, we're not having kindergarten carnival right now because of COVID, but we do encourage all families to attend that evening. They don't actually have to register because they're already registered, but it's an opportunity to meet the kindergarten staff at the elementary school where they'll attend. And some things that we've done in Colonial that we piloted over the past couple of years that now the whole state has adopted is we've created a page we use eSchool for our attendance. And we piloted, Dr. Lida worked to help make that happen as well, to create an early childhood page within eSchool. And that allows us to capture the information regarding where children went for early learning. And then, so when children register for kindergarten, that information follows them into elementary and beyond. So that gives us the opportunity to implement longitudinal data to really look at the success of our different programs, because we know where children were when they were in that birth to 5 time.
Yeah, and if you have a 4-year-old that you don't think is ready, would you keep them in your system?
So that's really a decision to make with the team that works with the child. We typically, it's very rare that we have children stay back for another year. Sometimes families will recommend that a child spend one more year in preschool, but typically we do encourage children to go on to kindergarten. So it has happened, but it's pretty infrequent.
Thank you.
Sure.
Chris,
Thank you.
Ron, or Robin? You good? Robin,
That means he's
Yes.
good.
you good? All right. Thank you, Dawn. Appreciate the information. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Next up, I have a couple of updates that are listed on the agenda, and then a few that I'd like to add. First off, we've been running the Colonial Virtual Academy since the start of the school year, and I think a lot of the fanfare has been in place around bringing students back face to face, but I think it's important to share with the board some data and some information from our virtual academy that has been working very, very well for our families and students. As of March 16th, when we went out for COVID, the Colonial School District has deployed 10,931 devices to students and families. We've issued 146 mobile hotspots. In terms of engagement with students in the various learning platforms, right now, our Chromebooks are averaging over 9,000 hits or connections to the internet every day. So 9,000 of those Chromebooks are hitting on average. We have over 8,500 students daily who are touching in with Schoology, and that would be grades 2 through 12. And in our pre-K through 1 using Seesaw, we have over 2,100 students daily checking in.
What was that one again? Sorry.
2,100 students, and that was pre-K through 1, and that's the Seesaw is the platform. On average, in Colonial, 8,100 students daily are interacting and learning through Zoom. So those are just some numbers to kind of give you context of the rate of engagement that our staff are maintaining with our students via the technology that the district has put out there. Not only is the hardware and the instruction occurring, but we have an incredible depth of support for both our students and our families. Our educational tech department has handled over 834 tickets from staff seeking support with these various learning platforms and instructional models. For staff, our IT department has handled over 2,074 IT tickets for hardware or programming issues or the like. Our staff also, there's a daily Zoom office hours for staff with respect to ed tech support. Our parents, we've responded to over 2,300 IT tickets for parents and students in the community since the beginning of the pandemic. We provide tech support for our families with Chromebook replacement and repair, updates and maintenance. Recently, you heard a little bit about our virtual classroom experience from our teacher's perspective and our Colonial clipping. I just want to recap that it's changing the dynamic of how students learn and how teachers look at education. One of our pre-K teachers now talked about how this is giving them an opportunity to not just engage with the student, but the entire family around learning for the student. Powerful statement. While it may be a tough situation, but that teacher is making the most of it for that family and their future with a pre-K child. We had a comment from a special education teacher at George Reed that the planning that they do now and the creativity and the teamwork that they have to do with their colleagues in the classroom is more intense than ever was for face-to-face. and they see the rewards of that in the students' work in the classroom. Obviously, we have a high level of engagement, so they are connecting. Another thing that we offer to our parents in the virtual world is Parent University. There's a weekly live parent event for families around technical support and training in the remote learning period. These are live sessions that give them insight to many of the remote learning tools that we have, such as Schoology, Kami, and Seesaw. Last week, I think it was the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, where somebody walked them through how to go online and actually access this great opportunity that our students have. This Thursday, Don Johnston is going to be talking about a student learning tool that will support learners in reading and writing, and it's available for all students who use a Chromebook. That's a little bit of virtual is working in Colonial. We feel confident in our teachers and our families' ability to adapt to this troubling time, where we know 60% of our families have selected that option from pre-K to 8th grade. That said, we also have a segment of our families who are opting for face-to-face, and we've been working through our 4 phases of returning to face-to-face. Phase 1 and 2 saw programs at Southern, George Reed, William Penn, Leach, and Colic bring students back with smoothly face-to-face since the beginning of the month. Or actually, what was that, October 9th? Since the beginning of October. I forgot we're now in November. My Lord, Thanksgiving is coming.
Oh, no, 19th, I'm sorry.
19th, over the 19th, that's right. It's been a blur because immediately following that, we had the next phase 1 and 2. Those schools came back with students. Phase 3 was yesterday. Elementary students
The 9th.
returned, the 9th.
The 9th.
November 9th was phase 3. We brought in 40% of our elementary students to our elementary schools. And it has been exciting. I strongly encourage you to check out the photos on the Facebook page for Colonial. I know some of our board members are not Facebookers. That's correct. But you can go to the school website and click and get to that gallery nonetheless. There are tons of great pictures of kids in classrooms and staff happy to see students, and students happy to be in buildings. Our students, when they all came in, they get a COVID gift bag with a thermometer and a Colonial kiddo mask. I believe each student gets one of those. I brought a sample in to show you. They get a mask, a thermometer, and some frequently answered or asked questions about COVID for parents. I can tell you that in walking around the buildings since the 19th of October, staff, when they first come in, are excited but anxious. They're nervous. It is a fearful time. You can't deny that. I go back to that same building after the students have been there for a week, and they are like, this is the best thing in the world. I love this. I am so glad that I walked into the door that day when I was nervous. Like, we can do this. This is doable, and my teacher heart is full because I am around students. At each step of the way, that has happened. Last Friday, I was in an elementary school, and there was an elementary school teacher there so excited to see kids. She couldn't stand still. And it was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And in the same breath, she said she's nervous. She's nervous because she's worried that the rise in cases outside in the community is going to cause us to cancel it so she doesn't get to see kids on Monday. I haven't gone down to see her yet, but I'm certain I will, and I'll peek my head in there, and underneath her mask, I'm certain she's smiling. So we have really put a lot of effort and energy into bringing back students face-to-face, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 4 is on the horizon for post-Thanksgiving. Our middle school students will be returning on November 30th. Plus some high school kids coming back to finish. Plus some high school kids coming back as well. So over the past several weeks, though, we have seen an increase of use of our Colonial COVID protocols and our Colonial COVID teams coordination with DPH regarding quarantining of staff and students. Although we have been notified of several positive cases among students and staff, the great majority of the quarantines have involved staff and students who were identified by DPH as being close contacts to a positive case. We expect that these conversations to increase in the coming months, given the uptick in COVID predicted by public health experts. We will continue to maintain a high degree of transparency to notify the public regarding positive cases in our schools and provide DPH with the most accurate contact tracing information as we collaborate with them to mitigate the spread of COVID. We're going to continue to urge all families to follow, students, staff, and our parents to continue to follow the DPH and state guidelines around COVID, be it mask wearing, maintaining social distancing, hand washing and sanitizing, and then getting tested regularly for COVID so you know your COVID status. All those things help us stay healthy and safe as a community. The Colonial administration will continue to monitor the outbreak and make decisions that ensure the safety and well-being of our students and staff and families while we continue to provide high-quality learning opportunities for all students. That's my virtual and face-to-face recap. Do you have any questions about that before we move on to the next report?
Any questions for Dr. Mentor?
What is our level of engagement compared to other school districts, if you know?
With what students in terms of, I can tell you that there are some school districts where students are yet to receive their Chromebooks. So I would put us up there relatively high. I can't speak, I don't really track what other districts are doing. I know each district has a different approach and a different methodology. They've gone back face-to-face with more students. Some have gone back in hybrid models. So it's really, I don't know, a fair assessment to kind of weigh us against anyone else, other than to say that I'm very confident in our staff's ability to engage students and feel that we are doing a top-notch job at that.
I do know that Red Clay, when the elementary kids went back one day, there was a notice that somebody had tested positive for COVID. They shut them down.
Yeah.
One day.
2 schools.
All their stuff was in the school, their
there was
books and everything. They weren't allowed to go back and get them.
We hope to not be in that at any
Yeah.
point in time. We do
Well,
encourage
I
our students to
think-
take
I
their
think somebody
devices and
did
stuff
think
with them
twice.
everywhere.
Every day.
Every day, they don't leave, it's like, you don't leave the building without all of your stuff.
Yeah.
That's a good practice.
I just think, that other districts aren't thinking as thoroughly as we are.
Well, we
Yeah,
definitely
we
have a
don't know
great
that,
team.
but,
We have a great team that works
Yeah.
closely with DPH and a lot of the folks who've been out there to prepare the protocols, prepare our facilities. There are days where we feel like we're like one step ahead of the curve with respect to getting the
Yeah.
call from DPH about a contact trace, close contact, you name it. The Colonial COVID team is something to be very proud of. That's what I really feel, that we have a great group that are working here.
Jeff, you said that we're getting 8,100 students per day from Zoom learning. We have 9,000 connections per day. What is our, that's 9,100 or 8,000 out of how many?
What's our enrollment as of?
Or at 97.
97. 98? Oh,
9850 or
98.
98?
I think we're 98.1 last
Kind of leads into the next question I asked Jeff to talk about.
Yes.
Okay, well, pretty good.
is that pre-K to 12 or K to 12?
That would be pre-K to 12, but I'm double checking it right now.
What was our enrollment last year?
99.1.
Last year?
Correct.
And we're at 9821 now, you think?
Right now we're at 98.16. Apologies.
No further questions about,
Well, just one. Are we using the DPH contact app?
we put it out there for all folks to use. We can't mandate that people use that. We do put it out there. We did push it out when the state announced it.
Do we not have it at all the athletic events?
We have our own contact tracing QR code where people have to scan themselves in. That allows us to keep track of who comes into our venues, so that if we contact the contact trace, we know who to call. At the football game last week, I watched parents come in and they had to hit QR code and fill out the form so that they had to do it before they could come in. They couldn't come in unless they did it.
Any other questions?
Good for them.
Okay, Dr. Mendel.
I'd ask Dr. Lyda to share a few words about our Colonial School District strategic planning process. Pete, you got the
Yeah.
floor?
So hopefully you can hear me okay. They'll let me know if you can. So first, I'd like to just thank Jeff for sharing those numbers. I think it's really important. I'd also like to say that we had over 200 families that participated in the home learning coach series, which was for parents to learn how to support their kids better at home, and we're really proud of that. And the numbers that we have there are attributed to this unwavering commitment of both our staff and our parents and kids to really make it an amazing experience. So I don't think we can say that enough. So as far as strategic planning, back in June, I came to you and shared with you a plan for strategic planning for this coming year. It was a pretty ambitious plan, as you can recall, with a number of engagement events planned each month. And, as you can imagine, due to the pandemic and some of the changes that have been going on, we have been trying to pace out appropriately and make sure that the community and the staff are really ready to engage in conversation, long-range planning conversations, and put aside the current virtual learning, in-person learning, hybrid learning, pandemic, if mindsets going on off to the side. And of course, that can be really difficult at this time. So that said, we have trained over 25 facilitators, so we are ready when we feel that the community and the staff are ready to engage in conversations. We have 2 dates on the calendar in December for staff, where we're going to go ahead and give it a shot with a small group of 30 individuals. We're going to cap the room size at that. Of course, it'll be virtual. And after that, then in January, we'll, as we see how those sessions go, we'll increase the number of sessions and then begin to add in community sessions. And again, at that point, I'll begin to reach out to all of you and hope to get your support on getting contacts in the community that you feel are really helpful, and sharing this beyond not just the parents of our students or affiliated Colonial members, but the non-affiliated Colonial supporters as well. So that's pretty much it for today with regards to strategic planning. And if you have any questions, I'll take those now. And I'll give you an update in probably 3 more months after we have some sessions.
Questions, Dr. Lyda? Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Pete. So I have one quick item and maybe a longer item depending on questions. I will provide the board with an update. The week before last, we received notice that the Leach CN request was not approved. We were told that the only CNs that will be approved or that have been approved this year are going to be for enrollment growth only. I don't know where those schools are or what district received them. That wasn't part of my communication, nor was it really part of my ask. But we did notify the Leach staff last week. Emily, myself, and Ted Lambert, all 3 of us spoke to the Leach staff a little bit about the status, where we are, and what our next steps are. So we will continue to move forward with these efforts. It's just going to look a little differently. I'd rather provide that update when we have a little bit more to report.
That denial came from OMB,
Department of Education.
Department of Ed.
Yes.
They work very closely in concert with OMB about what's available in terms of funding allocations, but the ultimate decision is to DOE.
Yes.
Okay.
So I just wanted to put that out there for the board. We are, obviously saddened by that news, but we're still resolved to continue to move forward. We've gotten this far with acquiring and finding a piece of land that's potential for us that we are not giving up. We will continue to move forward.
Is that cast in stone, or is that still, denials are cast in stone?
For the fiscal year 22 budget process, we would have to, the department is the only agency that can issue the certificate of necessity. So we would have to get some sort of outside influence to change their decision to issue that CN.
That route was gone at one time or another for this same project, and we didn't work out for us. But early on, the first leach request, where we definitely were in a different mode, in a different mindset, in a different frame on with a.
But we're talking about a school that supports all of Newcastle County School District.
Correct.
That is bursting at the seams. Out of date with its facilities on what the students need today.
So I will say that this points to a larger issue that other school districts have been struggling with around the state for years, that the pipeline of available funding for major capital projects is incredibly bottlenecked because of the limitation the state puts on how much bonding authority they'll put out every year. So there are schools, I think Sussex Tech has been trying to get a new building through for the last 10 years. I'm pretty sure I was still at the budget office when they first submitted the request 15 years ago, but
in all due respect, their building is still functional for their students.
correct.
Okay?
Unfortunately,
Be it a little bit crowded.
so the situation that we're running into with the Leach project is, despite the condition of the building, the enrollment at Leach is not increasing. The building has sufficient capacity to meet the needs, to house the students. And it is a programming challenges that are presented along with the condition of the building that are really, driving us towards submitting the CN. The state is basically coming back and saying, because it's not an enrollment pressure, they just are not prioritizing it. As I said, there've been a lot of conversations about how we can get some of these health and safety issues to the forefront, because these are concerns. These are medically fragile students, et cetera. And we do feel we have a really good case for the CN. It just has not made headway with the state.
Any other questions? No. Glad you're wearing a mask tonight, Ted.
I'm gonna make a couple of-
So the unit count process is going on right now. Typically, it's September 30th unit count. This year is November 13th unit count process. The last day of the 10-day count is the 13th. It looks a little different, obviously. We're responsible for verifying, approving that all 9,816 of those kids are ours. They must be marked present in eSchool, whether they're in the virtual space or in the face-to-face world. And the expectations for documenting that has not changed. You must document it. It just looks different in the virtual world than it did in the physical world, where you might take a picture of a student sitting in a chair or actually snatch a piece of paper off their table, photocopy it, stick it in a file, and prove that that child was there working on that day, and therefore that child should be counted, not be counted in another school that's claiming that the child was there. We now have a lot of other technological mechanisms that help us prove students are logged in, teachers are collecting work, teachers are marking attendance in eSchool based off of engagement in the learning for the lessons for the day. So we feel that the process that's in place solidly documents that our students are marked present, are actually present and engaged. The board, as you know, last month approved an attendance policy that allows us to mark students as present using that philosophy and approach during COVID. our numbers are trending slightly under the enrollment from last year. Without actually looking more detailed at the final number, to say where that number is off. Is it a school? Is it a certain grade level? Where did those families go? Or was it just a kind of a broad stroke across? Would be something more detailed after the 30 count is done and we'll be able to look at it. But we are guaranteed 98% funding on what we submitted for in the spring to maintain our staffing, which was based off of last year's 30 count. So and I say staffing, I mean teacher staff. So while we might be under where we want to be from last year, we are guaranteed 98% fund for teachers for this year if we don't meet that number that we should be at, that we staffed on based on being at 100%. I don't know if that doesn't make sense. You can explain it better than I can, Emily. There's a floor we won't go below in terms of staffing. That's the one thing I keep hearing. Like, we're not going to go lower than 98% of what we were last year.
So the 98% is actually based on an estimated number that is derived in the spring. We go through a projection process and we work with the state to decide on a number that's a projection of where we think we're going to land in September. We cannot be funded at below 98% of that projection, right? So it's not actually from last year's number, it's the projection from the spring. Thankfully, Pete and I fought pretty hard in the spring to get our number as generous as the department would allow it to be, so that our 98% is actually a 5 unit increase over where we were last year. So even though, I'm sorry, that's 5 units below. Instead of the 20 that we're actually seeing that we're below, it's only a 5 unit drop. My apologies.
And for every spring, we go through the process of submitting this
Correct.
to DOE to get guaranteed funding so that we can continue to move forward with our staffing early in the spring, get new hires, get folks on board, keep people on board. It helps us retain staff. And in this case, to Emily's point, it'll help us through this school year, depending on where that number comes in on the 13th.
All right, good. Thank you. Questions? Okay, moving on. Anything up with your superintendent?
Yeah, we have, not for me, but under action items and updates, we have a student member non-voting on the Colonial School Board update and action item. As you requested in June, that you would like to see a student non-voting member on this board to be a part of this group to represent the student body. We went back to William Penn. They spent some time putting together, obviously we had some COVID crisis things going on and getting back to school, but the William Penn administration has brought forward recommendations for students to be considered for the board. And I would like the board to move forward with their recommendations.
Sure. If you all remember, this is an item that we've been working on for a few years to try to get our students involved, not only from an aspect of being able to represent the student body in voice, but also too as a learning experience for anyone who is interested in trying to get into this field of work that we are doing, and volunteers and whatnot. So it's a learning experience, plus it's an opportunity for our students to speak. All right. So with that being said, do I hear a motion to grant Dr. Menzer the permission to proceed with identifying a student representative for a non-voting position on the school board?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Handy, seconded by Ms. Kennedy to give Dr. Menzer the permission to proceed with identifying a student member of the school board. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Next order of business we have is Delaware School Board Association update. We have a report.
Yes, sir. We adopted the legislation priorities for the General Assembly, the 151st General Assembly. Legislative Committee walked through and gave us the priorities, and we voted on it, and everything passed. And we're now in the process of changing some of the language for DSBA. That's going to govern our body, and it should be coming out at our next meeting. We had to make some changes, just wording changes.
Now, is this for the legislative committee or for the
For
board?
DSBA.
For DSBA, okay. All right. Any questions for Mr. Hansel? How about legislative? Do we have any report from legislative?
We did not meet.
All right, thank you very much. Items removed from the consent agenda. We had none. Items added to or deleted from the agenda. We have none. Public comment. We have two individuals that are online.
I don't know if the third one has arrived yet.
Okay, possibly three. If we could please unlock Daniel Ayers, please. Dan, you there?
Yes, I am. Good evening, gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The floor is yours for 3 minutes, thank you.
Okay. Yes, my question was, we've just been recently told that the Newcastle Elementary School Chinese immersion program is being moved to the Pleasantville School. And my daughter has been in it since kindergarten. She'll be in 5th grade next year. So this will be her last year in that school. And we just had concerns with the program itself being moved and not being phased out so the children could stay in the school that they're in. And if we do have to choice in to this other school, transportation is not going to be provided. But the whole thing that we were told was that it was an attendance issue. So I have concerns if there's only 20 something kids in their class, you're expecting parents to move the children to a new school. What's that going to do to the attendance? And is the program still going to continue if there's only a handful of kids that moves to this new school?
Okay, have you contacted either the principal of the school or have you reached out to anybody in the superintendent's office to discuss this?
Yes, the night of the meeting, we emailed the principal. She has gotten back to me with pretty much just letting me know that it was sent up the chain. And Mr. Light actually responded to me today saying that there's still other decisions being determined before I joined, sent my question in for tonight. So just trying to follow up and just get some answers, get some parents involved, because we weren't really considered in this decision. It was just kind of dropped on us.
Okay, well, I'm gonna ask Dr. Menzer to follow up with that even more and get back to you. Okay? Either he or somebody within his office will get back to you and give you more information as they get it. All right?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments.
All right. Thank you.
Next individual we have is Alicia Wesley. Alicia, can you hear us?
Yes, my name is Alyssa Wesley. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. First, I want to go back to that other gentleman's question about the Chinese immersion. My daughter, we were going to choice her into Newcastle Elementary School. Luckily, that was her feeder. We had asked to be a part of that program, and we were told that that unfortunately, due to enrollment, that kindergarten wouldn't take place this year, but 1st grade would take place, that they would have the ability. And that was all because of the, like I said, the enrollment wasn't very high. I have to say though, we didn't know about the Chinese immersion program until we took the tour. We are new to Newcastle. So I don't know how many people actually know about the program that is there unless they went to the next thing, which was the kindergarten carnival. So just in case there is, you want to see whether or not people are interested, I would suggest that maybe before you knock a program or that you send it somewhere else, that you actually do more outreach for that program, because my daughter was really looking forward to it in kindergarten and wasn't capable. Sorry, moving on to my question. My question was for the teachers. I am always one of those parents that are in the corner of the teachers, the teacher's corner. And one of the things that I'm worried about is with the coronavirus is that they are constantly taking care of our children. What is being done for the teachers in the background to help them with their stress and their emotions during this time, so that they too are being helped while this is going on, because it has to be a burden to them. So I'm just worried about them as well.
All right, well, thank you for your concern and your questions. I will ask Dr. Menzer as well to have someone in his organization contact you.
Great.
And give you what it is that we are doing with our staff as a whole. And hopefully that'll answer your questions.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Take care. Okay, is just out of curiosity, we haven't heard from it yet, but is Thomasina Owat on the line?
They don't appear to be online.
All right, that's our public comment. Okay. Okay, that's our agenda for this evening. Does any other board member have any items? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you. Good night.